Ethiopia, a mysterious mountainous land in the Horn of Africa, birthplace of early Christianity, and a country of rock churches in the north. It is the oldest civilized region in Africa, with more than 25 centuries of documented history. Within its center is the lavishly furnished Menbere Selassie Church, the final place of rest of Ethiopia's last royal family. It contains the Empress Menen, two princes, and since the 5th of November 2002, Emperor Haile Selassie, who, shortly after removal from power, died due to reasons that are in the main controversial. Emperor Menelik had the Bete Georgis Cathedral built on one of the city's hills in order to commemorate the patron saint of the country's soldiers. Since then, each emperor has been crowned here. Following occupation by the Italians, the sacred building was restored. Orthodox Ethiopian Christianity has a long history and continues to affect the daily life of the people. And next to the station building stands an imposing monument that features the Lion of Judah, as the Ethiopian emperors were called. On the summit, framed by walls and hidden under great trees, is the Holy Stephanos Monastery. In a small sanctuary, various mummies are preserved within glazed wooden coffins. Here, the remains of 5 emperors of various dynasties lie at rest. Plus, there are remarkable sacred treasures and masterpieces of Ethiopian art. 2 water towers and a bell tower of typical Gondar design protect the Naga Selassie Church. 24 stone-like pillars adorn the outer ring of a path that leads around the church. The magnificent murals in the interior of the rotunda are among the most beautiful and most well-preserved of those that are known as the Second Gondar design. There is no altar, just a shrine, the Makdas, that is surrounded by painted walls, the motifs of which were often depicted as what could be called comic strips. Bible stories are told, and the Trinity is surrounded by purgatory to the journey to heaven. People celebrate outside the church. Here, treasures were also protected, such as books and crosses. The history of the hidden iron monastery is long. There, the emperor's fort was taken piece by piece from shore back to the islands of Lake Tana, and the monastery experienced a new prosperity and became the seat of government. This small monastery is one of the oldest in Ethiopia. Here in 1350, Abba Johannes of Shor settled and was eventually buried. One of the towers contained crowns, crosses, and books. During the reign of Emperor Amda Sion, this was part of a monastery, and Emperor Iyasu I decreed that a religious council be held here. Gondar, a city of palaces and castles. Ethiopia in the 17th century. For the first time in the country's history, King Fasilides began with the construction of a walled palace. Until then, the emperors of that time took part in various campaigns during the dry season. Only in the rainy season was the court located within a camp. So, in the course of a century, a huge fortification was built, with several royal palaces and a number of churches. After Emperor Johannes, the son of Fasilides, followed a grandson, Iyasu I, who had a two-story palace built here. There is a high domed main hall, used mainly for formal events. The emperor's living quarters were far smaller. Dawit III, a son of Emperor Iyasu, had his palace built in the north of Fazil Gabi, protected by a 900-meter-long wall. There were caged lions. The archive is like a small castle. Art and culture made Gondar the religious center of Ethiopia. But they were very much in evidence at that time and no doubt gave great comfort to those who used them. Under Emperor Bakafa, imperial power was consolidated for the last time. He too had a palace built within the Fazil Gabi. A final flowering of courtly power began at the end of the 17th century and attracted merchants from Europe, the Middle East, and the Arabian Peninsula. Just outside the center of the city, a sturdy wall surrounds a garden planted with trees, at the center of which is a castle and moat, the bathroom of Fasilides. It was situated in the middle of a large water basin in which the emperor bathed. On a hill in the town, Emperor Iyasu I had the Debri Berhan Selassie built, the monastery of the Holy Trinity on the Mountain of Light. The church was built according to the unusual religious form of a long-drawn Axiomite basilica. Simple images of Jesus, the Holy Trinity, and Our Lady decorate the external gallery. Wonderful murals adorn the interior, and the heads of angels on the ceiling bring to mind the souls of the beheaded. On another hill is the complex of Kuskuam, well protected beyond sturdy walls, with the Debre Tsehai Church and the Empress Palace. Stored in a small adjoining building are the final relics of those bygone times, and the remains of the Empress and her son. Next to it, the palace ruins. It was here that Empress Mentewab once resided when life in Fazil Gebe became too dangerous. Finally, the empire disintegrated, a fact that spelled the inevitable decline of the imperial city of Gondar. Historic Aksum was once the capital of a mighty kingdom. On the site of two previous religious buildings, this ancient cathedral was rebuilt in 1665. Thrones constructed of stone have witnessed the coronation of various monarchs whose Ethiopian Orthodox faith from the 5th century on spread far and wide. From the Eastern Roman Empire, fleeing missionaries known as monophysites introduced the ancient Christian faith, which taught that Christ had only one divine nature. Eventually, the concept of a division of faith came into being, and Ethiopian Christianity developed independently. An enigma lies within a small chapel next to the cathedral. Here, a monk is said to protect the Ark of the Covenant, believed to contain the tables of the 10 Commandments which God gave to Moses. Aksum is also referred to as Ethiopian Rome, capital of the oldest Christian kingdom in the world, the largest outside the Roman Empire. The new cathedral was established in 1965 under Haile Selassie I, the last emperor of the Solomonian dynasty. It is one of Ethiopia's few religious buildings in which people gather to celebrate Mass, which lasts for several hours. In the new cathedral, a 600-year-old Bible forms part of its well-preserved treasures. Here too are colourful paintings of martyrs and of the Virgin Mary with the child Jesus. Around the huge church building, there are always a large number of believers. The ruins of Aksum are dominated by around 130 steles. Obelisk-like monoliths of trachyte, a splendid sight. Others lie in pieces on the ground. The steles of the Aksumite culture were created from natural stone, from which numerous grave sites were marked out. The idea of the grave as being the house of the dead led to the decoration of the steles as a kind of living room. Thus arose the story stela. At the base of the collapsed stele tomb, entrances have been exposed on both sides. Only a few of the underground grave chambers are open to the public. On today's western periphery of Dongur lie the ruins of a relatively modest complex, popularly known as the Palace of the Queen of Sheba. On the hill above the town are the underground grave chambers of King Caleb and Gebre Mesqal. Although little remains of the former capital of the Aksumite kingdom, Ethiopia's holiest site, it continues to be a place of mystery and legend. A new church crowns a small hill. The small adjoining museum features various crosses and paintings, plus a number of ancient texts. About 3,000 years ago, people settled here and erected a pre-Christian temple that is the oldest in Ethiopia. In the mountainous highlands of Ethiopia, there's an extraordinary treasure of the history of mankind. The 11 rock churches of Lalibela. In the 13th century, the famous Lalibela decided to establish a new Jerusalem in his kingdom. The World Redeemer Church of the House of the Holy Saviour is situated at the highest point of the steep Lasta Mountains. These monolith churches were completely carved out of the rock. Then the masons worked on both the external and interior design, from floor to ceiling. Domes, windows, doors and pillars gradually developed. Even today, pilgrims and visitors are deeply touched by their unusual atmosphere. Lalibela was the most important king of the Zakwe dynasty, in whose honor the old capital of Roha, located in the secluded mountains, was named. He was the one who, as a boy, was chosen by a swarm of bees to be king. The colony gently enshrouded him like a cloud without stinging him, a heavenly sign. A maze of paths and tunnels carved into the rock connects the first group of churches. This, the Beta Mariam, the House of St. Mary. In the center of an underground courtyard is a monolith church. Its various entrances, external walls and water basins are of Aksumite design. It is believed that Bete Mariam was the first building of King Lalibela's rule. The external pathways are narrow and difficult to negotiate, and in each small niche live priests and monks who tend the churches. The various caves and chapels each have a name, such as Adam's tomb and other biblical names. The route leads back to the surface, down the mountain, and passes the traditional village of bee huts. Next, and seen from above, the most beautiful church of all in the form of a Greek cross, Bete Georgi, that commemorates St. George. Isolated from the other churches, it lies hidden in a deep shaft. According to legend, in New Jerusalem, the valley of the river Jordan was designed to separate two groups of churches. The double church of Gabriel and Raphael belongs to the second group. Again, red tufa corridors and bridges lead to the holy places. At first, from a corridor, only the facade is visible because the churches are hidden within the rock. Inside is a small central area. Winding and narrow, the route ascends to the world above, from where Bete Emmanuel is seen in all of its glory. The church's interior was carefully hollowed out and carved into arches, pillars and ornaments, from floor to ceiling. Again, narrow paths lead to the next church. Around 6 kilometers from Lalibela, a strange-looking rock wall that contains a long crack catches the eye. As was customary in Ethiopia, a church was built here within a secure cave, mostly by hermits and holy men. However, according to local legend, this cave church was built by King Neakuto-Leab, the last king of the Zagwe dynasty. The architectural-like paintings look extremely ancient, the reason why they are estimated to be older than the rock churches of Lalibela. In 1268, King Neakuto-Leab was forced to hand over power to the first emperor of the Solomonian dynasty, Yakuno Amlak. Precious treasures, such as an old leather Bible and numerous crowns, are in good condition, historic evidence of deep faith. After about 15 kilometers, we reach Gernata Mariam, the only authentic monolith church near to Lalibela. The church resembles that of Bete Medan Alem. The paintings in its interior are quite splendid. In addition to beautiful ornaments, they feature angels and saints, as well as elephants, horses, and other wildlife. Small windows allow little light to enter the church, in which priests stand guard with their religious symbols.